On a warm summer morning, officers found her in the yard, on the north side of the house, still wearing her robe, shot multiple times before she ever reached the ground. She was lying just below a shattered bedroom window, the glass around her scattered like the remnants of a struggle that had pushed its way from inside the home to the grass beneath it. From the street, the house looked untouched, quiet, almost peaceful. But a few steps closer made it clear that something violent had ripped through the walls long before help arrived. Her name was Alisha Lofton. Hey there, and welcome to Sleuthy Express, where the timeline stays tight, the story stays true, and I do my very best not to overload you with every detail. Here, it's true crime in record time. Well, record time for me, anyway. Today's story is about what happens when the truth inside a relationship doesn't match the image on the outside, because some people can walk away when love stops working. Others can talk it out. But there are a dangerous few, who, when cornered by honesty, by consequences, or by the possibility of losing someone they believe they own, that's when a story can take its darkest turn. Before we begin, a quick note. This episode includes references to domestic violence and lethal harm. Please take care as you listen. Now, to understand what unfolded that summer morning, we have to step back to the moment everything shifted. All right, let's go to where this story truly begins. The call came in just after 8 a.m. A report of an unresponsive woman lying in the yard beside a home on Union Avenue Southeast. When officers arrived, the front of the house gave them nothing. No damage, no noise, nothing that hinted at the urgency of the call. But on the north side of the property, they found what the caller had described. A woman in her robe, collapsed beneath a broken bedroom window, with multiple gunshot wounds visible across her body. Glass surrounded her in the grass, some pieces still reflecting the morning sun, as if the window had shattered only moments before help arrived. Officers checked for a pulse. There was none. They secured the area and moved toward the home itself, because whatever brought her to that window started inside. The door was locked. No answer. No movement. Once inside, the picture sharpened. Down a hallway, a bedroom door had been not opened, but broken through, its frame splintered and the lock damaged. On the floor were signs of a struggle, objects out of place, smears and drops of blood, and a clear trail leading from the door toward the shattered window. It took only seconds to connect the inside to the outside. Whoever this woman was, she hadn't been moved. She hadn't been staged. It appeared she tried to get out, and she never made it farther than the ground below that window. Inside the home, officers located documents and personal items that identified her as Alisha Lofton. Alicia was 38, a mother of 3, the kind of woman her family depended on. Warm, confident, and always put together. She carried herself with the quiet strength of someone who had built a life she was proud of. But none of that explained how she ended up beneath a shattered window that morning. To piece it together, detectives had to start where everything ended, in that bedroom and the yard below. For a moment, officers just stood there, trying to reconstruct the sequence of events from what little the scene gave them. There were no fresh footprints in the grass, no signs she'd been dragged, no indication anyone had tried to help or call out. Just the broken window above her, and the silence of a neighborhood that didn't yet realize what it had heard. With Alicia identified, detectives began tracing her path backward, from the yard to the window, and from the window to whatever confrontation had unfolded inside the home. That bedroom door told the story first. The frame cracked, splintered, as if something or someone hit it hard enough to break straight through the lock. Inside were clear signs of a struggle. Items pushed out of place, blood on the floor, and a trail leading toward the same window where Alicia had been found outside. Putting those pieces together, detectives formed an early theory. Alicia hadn't been attacked in the yard. She'd made it there on her own. Whatever happened had started deeper inside the house, forcing her into the bedroom and toward the only exit left to her. The scene suggested movement, a desperate attempt to get away before she reached that window ledge. While officers processed the scene, detectives canvassed the neighborhood. And that's when a critical detail came forward. A neighbor reported hearing raised voices from the home that morning, followed by a rapid burst of gunfire. Then silence. Moments later, they saw a maroon SUV speed away. For detectives, that detail shifted everything. People flee crime scenes for many reasons: fear, shock, panic, but speeding away after gunfire from a home with no signs of forced entry, that narrows the possibilities fast. And in cases like these, timelines matter. Who left first? Who stayed behind? Who was present at the moment violence broke out? Those answers often decide the entire direction of an investigation. When detectives matched the vehicle description to the residents of the home, one name stood out: Alicia's husband, Marcus Lofton, who was known to drive a maroon SUV. That information moved Marcus from someone detectives needed to notify to someone they urgently needed to find. Detectives immediately tried to reach Marcus, calling his phone, checking known addresses, and waiting to see if he would return to the home. He didn't. He didn't answer calls. He didn't show up. And no one detectives spoke to could say where he'd gone. Given the scene inside the house, the argument neighbors reported, and the maroon SUV speeding away, Marcus's disappearance wasn't just concerning, it was suspicious. By then, detectives weren't just trying to reach him, they were actively trying to find him. He'd shifted fully into person of interest territory, and every hour he remained off the radar only solidified that status. The search stretched overnight and continued into the next morning. It was that next day, August 18th, when officers spotted Marcus Lofton walking along the 1200 block of North Avenue Northeast in Grand Rapids. No disguise, no attempt to flee, just walking alone as if nothing had happened. Police approached, took him into custody without incident, and brought him straight to the station for questioning. What he said next would shape the rest of the investigation. At the station, detectives sat Marcus down for a formal interview. Over the next 2 hours, he cried, cursed, and gave a version of events that shifted from anger to confusion to what he said he couldn't remember. According to Marcus, he went to the house that morning to pack his things. He said he and Alicia argued. He admitted he snapped. He said he pulled Alicia's gun from a drawer in the foyer and hit her with it. He claimed the gun went off. He told detectives that Alicia ran to the bedroom and locked the door. He said he kicked it open, forcing his way inside. According to him, she was climbing out the window, trying to escape the house. Marcus admitted he shot her multiple times, but said everything after that blurred, and that he didn't know how many shots he fired. Afterward, he said he left the house, and his car, a maroon SUV, was seen speeding away in that same time frame. This was his story. But detectives still had to compare it to the evidence inside the home and the timeline that was forming around it. As Marcus talked, detectives compared his statements with what they already knew and what came back through the system once he was in custody. Marcus told detectives that he and Alicia had married in Vegas that February, a quiet ceremony, no guests, just the two of them. But once he moved into her home, the marriage lasted barely 3 months before everything began to unravel. He claimed Alicia was secretly meeting with their realtor and planning to keep all the profit from the sale of the house. According to him, they'd been living apart since May because Alicia had filed an order of protection after a violent incident inside the very same home where she was now found dead. That order was active, which meant Marcus was legally barred from being at the home that morning. Detectives also confirmed something else, something that added even more weight to the tension between them. Marcus admitted that Alicia had served him with divorce papers just the day before she was killed. 6 months earlier, they had stood together as newlyweds. Now his wife, the woman he'd promised to build a life with, lay dead in the yard outside her own home, and by his own admission, he was the one who shot her. As detectives worked through Marcus's account, friends of Alicia began sharing what they believed. They said Alicia suspected Marcus was cheating and had started doing her own searching online, looking for answers, looking for the truth, looking for whatever he wasn't telling her. They said she posted his picture in a Facebook group, and the responses came fast. Messages, rumors, stories she didn't see coming, and a flood of comments from people she didn't even know. Friends said she didn't go into that Facebook group lightly. It wasn't for attention or drama. It was frustration, confusion, and a woman looking for clarity in a situation that no longer made sense to her. She wanted answers, and she wasn't getting them at home. So she turned to strangers on the internet, hoping someone might confirm or contradict the uneasy feeling she'd been carrying for weeks. The comments poured in, but among all of them, friends say there was one piece of digital evidence that hit her harder than the rest. Something explosive, unexpected, something she never imagined she'd find, something that changed everything in an instant. They say she went live on Facebook soon after, angry, shocked, humiliated, trying to expose what she had just learned. And then, just as quickly, her page vanished. Hours later, Alisha Lofton was dead. Whatever she found that night would become one of the most talked about pieces of this case. But that part of the story wasn't captured in Marcus's interview, and it wasn't reflected anywhere in the early police reports. When detectives compared Marcus's account to the physical evidence inside the home, the gaps were immediate. The room itself showed sustained struggle, objects knocked over, blood on the floor, and a trail that didn't match the blurred, overwhelming, blind rage Marcus claimed had overtaken him. And outside the window, Alicia's position in the yard and the wounds across her body told a story far more deliberate than the one he described. His version of losing control may have explained his emotions, but it didn't explain the physical reality of the scene. And detectives knew they were only at the beginning of uncovering what truly happened in that room. With Marcus's interview on record and the evidence inside the home contradicting key parts of his story, prosecutors moved quickly. He was charged with open murder, felony firearm, being a felon in possession of a weapon, and multiple violations of the active protection order that barred him from being at the home that morning. Marcus Lofton was held without bond as investigators continued piecing together what really led to the violence inside that bedroom and the moments that followed. By the time Marcus was charged, detectives had the basic outline of what happened that morning: the divorce papers, the argument, the broken door, the window, the gunshots, and the maroon SUV speeding away. But that outline didn't explain everything. It didn't account for the hours leading up to the shooting. This was a couple who'd been living apart for nearly as long as they'd been married. So it didn't explain the sudden escalation to violence or the sudden firestorm happening online. It didn't clarify his expectations around the house, a home he'd only lived in for a few months. It didn't address the digital discovery that friends say shook Alicia to her core. And it didn't explain why Marcus's blurred version of events collapsed under the weight of the physical evidence. But the most unsettling part was that the picture detectives had on day one was only half the truth. The rest of it, the part that reshaped the entire narrative, came slowly, piece by piece. Those answers, the ones that changed how people understood this case, came later. And that part of the story is where things take a much darker turn. If you want to know what was uncovered after his arrest, the contents of the alleged video, the contradictions, the forensic details that rewrote the narrative, and the moments that revealed what may have truly sparked the violence, I break all of that down. Every twist, every contradiction, and the part of this case people still argue about on the Sleuthy Stories podcast. You can listen on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. I'll meet you there.